Does that still
Rainbow
exist?
Lodge has reincarnated. So the Rainbow Lodge large residential lodge closed down a couple of decades ago, but what happened is all the people who lived there moved into some other group homes we have up here. So back then there was this big initiative to close large residential centres because people thought, in smaller sized group homes were much better for community inclusion.
Yeah, rather than that institutionalised.
Yeah, rather than you kind of go in behind the walls, you don't need to leave because everything's there for you. So instead, they broke those open, they've devolved, and so now we run a group home model where people live in family-sized group homes of several people who live there, anywhere between 3 and 8. And then if they need anything, they actually go into the community, which is far more inclusive. So they go to the local doctor, to the local shops, and just do like anyone else does. So that's what happened with Sylvanvale a couple of decades ago. Rainbow Lodge turned into 6 group homes. It's now 5. And we still have one of them named after Rainbow Lodge. So, yeah, it's still called Rainbow, so we held on to that name.
So at Kurrajong,
Yes.
their houses now?
Yeah, well, all our houses have moved into Katoomba. So Rainbow Lodge was based in Kurrajong, and that was our first footprint here. And that was wonderful because it had permanent accommodation. It had short respite days, but it also ran a school for people with a disability. Yeah. So a lot of the people who live with us now, much, much older, much, much more involved in their community and are local to the Blue Mountains, we met them for the first time when they came to Rainbow Lodge in Kurrajong to go to that school and to have the same kind of educational opportunities that anyone else does. You know, right now, nowadays, that doesn't seem like a big thing, but back then, 60 years ago, that was huge, and that was a rare opportunity.
Yeah. And now people are integrated into the main school system?
Yeah, well, we actually don't have kids anymore up here in our services. Sylvanvale is based down in the Sutherland Shire, and we've got a daycare centre down there. It's not a school, but it's one of the few accessible daycare centres. So again, it's this integration of, young kids going to childcare. Some have disabilities, some don't. So it's far more representative of the main community. So, but up here we've just got adults in group homes, and we've got quite a huge variety. We've got some group homes that specialise in mental illness as the primary disability. We've got one group home that specialises in people with an intellectual disability as well as dementia. So it's our wonderful ageing in care model where people are avoiding moving into an aged care facility to try and stay in their home and have their supports provided there. And then we've got a couple of other unique homes where we've got all kinds, we've got intellectual, physical, and all kinds of different needs and abilities.
Mental as well.
Yeah, mental. I love the variety.
There is a lot of different variety. It's
And that's one of the things I'm really proud of in the Blue Mountains and Sylvanvale's services up here is we do have a lot of variety of support needs. Sylvanvale specialises in people with challenging behaviours, so we have a really good high skill and high expertise for that in Sydney and South Sydney. But up here in the Blue Mountains, we've just got a huge variety. We've got some challenging behaviours, we've got some mental illness, we've got some ageing in place, we've got some people who have real high capacity and access the community independently. So, I find that's really wonderful to have a great variety in the local area of Katoomba.
How many homes do you have here in Katoomba?
We've got 5. Yeah, we've got 5, and they are home to 32 people. Right. And we've got some homes as small as only have 3 people who live there, so they live quite independently, and it's quite a small-sized family there. And then we've got some which have up to 10, so we have one with up to 10. It's actually 2, 5 and 5s, but we've got...
so 2 residents.
Yeah,
next
so
door to each other.
Exactly, 2 homes next to each other, each with 5 people who live there.
That's the one in Hillview, isn't it?
We've got one in Hillview, we've got one on Hillview Road where we've got 2 houses next to each other. We also have one down near the pool and aquatic centre on Cascade. So that's, look, we love those homes. The ones in Cascade actually have a really interesting story if you want to hear about it.
Go for it.
All right. Look, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Eldon. Do you remember the Eldon boarding house? Yeah. Look, if you can't come anywhere near the Blue Mountains or Katoomba and not have heard of the Eldon. So look, about 10 or 11 years ago, the licensee died quite suddenly. It was very sad, but what that also meant was that all of a sudden everyone that lived in that Eldon boarding home became a ward of the state. So all of a sudden the government was responsible for them. And so we had 3 months. They partnered up with us, the government. They partnered up with a couple of other organisations. And we had 3 months to find them alternative temporary accommodation and then 2 years to find them permanent accommodation. And I was actually
3 months.
3 months to move them.
Wow.
Move them out of the Eldon. There were over 60 people that were in the Eldon, and we ended up receiving a bit less than 30. So it was quite panic stations. It was really exciting. And also, the Eldon had its problems. It was a little bit, downtrodden. There was some hot water issues. The cleanliness wasn't great. But we made sure that we respected that regardless of all that. It was actually home to all those people.
Yeah.
It was their refuge. There was a lot of people who it was either the Eldon or they were homeless. So we wanted to really respect that it was their home. And so we went in and we were the accommodation provider that was going to find them another place to live temporarily and then permanently. It's an amazing responsibility, an incredibly wonderful story. So we did. We found them an ex-hostel. So it's right now, it's the new Uniting aged care facility on Raynton Street, I think. Yeah, any local would know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And we actually, faxed, the government sunk a bunch of money in to build that up to scratch, and we moved, I believe it was about 27 people there within 3 months. And then after 2 years, we found them special group homes here and there, and we still to this day have 3 group homes in Katoomba which have residents that started at the Eldon. So
Was the Eldon, was that for people with disabilities, or was that more like...
It was a boarding house for homeless, I believe.
Yeah, so, for the homeless. So it could have been drugs and alcohol or whatever.
Absolutely.
Whatever the spectrum was.
Exactly. Anyone that needed anything.
And you were able to help those people as well.
Yeah, we certainly do have some people that have substance abuse issues, and we have a degree of expertise in that. I mean, as I said, we try to reach to the variety of people's support needs. If they have a need and they need support, then we'll try our hardest to kind of meet it. But yeah, the Eldon was a real colourful place. There was a lot of issues there. Full respect to it, and I also want to respect that it was people's home. But I do feel like everyone that moved out of that place into a new home as we know them now, they've had a real wonderful upgrade in where they live and their outcomes and their health and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened. Yeah.
All right.
So
look,
that's great.
We're going to break it up a little bit. We're going to go to a song and then we'll come back.
Are you ready with the song?
Yes. Are you? Have you got one?
No.
It's all right. That's okay.
Not quite yet.
We're
I
ready.
shall, though.
So we'll go to some music and then we'll come back for some more with Daniel.
Excellent.
Radio Blue Mountains 89.1, Blast from the Past, Back to the Future.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah, absolutely. You just go if you interrupt me. You want me to talk less or more.
In the shape of an L on her forehead. Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Back to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun.
Yeah, but no one's gone anywhere near it.
Gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, let's go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. It's a cool place, and they say it gets colder. You're bundled up now, wait till you get older. But the media men beg to differ, judging by the hole in the satellite picture. The ice we skate is getting pretty thin. The water's getting warm, so you might as well swim. My world's on fire, how about yours? That's the way I like it, and I'll never get bored. Hey now, you're an all-star. what a concept. I could use a little fuel myself, and we could all use a little change. Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Back to the rules and I'll hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
I don't want another heartbreak. I don't need another turn to cry. No, I don't want to learn the hard way. Baby, hello. Oh, no, goodbye. But you got me like a rocket, shooting straight across the sky. It's the way you love me. It's a feeling like this. It's centrifugal motion. It's perpetual bliss. It's that pivotal moment. It's impossible. This kiss, unstoppable. This kiss. Cinderella said to Snow White, how does love get so off course? Oh, all I wanted was a white knight with a good heart, soft touch, fast horse. Ride me off into the sunset, baby, I'm forever yours. It's the way you love me. It's a feeling like this. It's centrifugal motion. It's perpetual bliss. It's that pivotal moment. It's unthinkable. This kiss, unsinkable. This kiss. You can kiss me in the moonlight, on the rooftop under the sky. Oh, you can kiss me with the windows open while the rain comes pouring inside. Oh, kiss me in sweet slow motion. Let's let everything slide. You got me floating. You got me flying. It's the way you love me. It's a feeling like this. It's centrifugal motion. It's perpetual bliss. It's that pivotal moment. It's subliminal. This kiss. It's criminal. This kiss. It's the way you love me, baby. It's the way you love me, darling. Yeah. It's the way you love me. It's a feeling like this. It's centrifugal motion. It's perpetual bliss. It's that pivotal moment. It's subliminal. This kiss. It's criminal. This kiss. It's the way you love me, baby. It's the way you love me, darling. It's the way.
Radio Blue Mountains 89.1. Blast from the Past, Back to the Future. Jenny and myself. And we have Daniel here from Sylvanvale. So, yeah. All right, Jen, it's over to you.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the Eldon and the transition of that Sylvanvale was involved in moving residences into some new homes and everything, which was managed pretty quickly.
It was. It had to be.
Within
That
3
was.
months.
Yeah, that was the pressure in 3 months to move them into, or to find somewhere first. Yeah, there was this wonderful procession moment where everyone from the Eldon that was moving into Rainton House, we called it, did the walk from the Eldon down the road, and there was about 20 of them with a whole bunch of staff, and it was a moment. It was an exodus, but it was the start.
There must have been a lot of emotions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Around that time too.
Well,
they
just
would have
fear
been
of
so frightened.
Yeah, fear of security. But the Eldon, for all its faults, was an option to save them from homelessness, and staying in Katoomba on the streets. Scully, as of last night, what was it? -2 last night.
Yeah,
so it's certainly not a place you want to be out overnight.
No.
So we really took that seriously, that this was their home and their refuge. So luckily it worked out, and they did that walk and they found their new home, and the rest is history, and now they're more or less happier, which is great.
Yeah.
And the government contacted Sylvanvale, or Sylvanvale stepped in? I mean, how did that happen?
So I guess, FACS, Family and Community Services, essentially all the residents of the Eldon became wards of the state in the moment when the licensee died. So FACS had to step in and quickly assemble a project team. It was part of the boarding house devolution team back in the day, where large residential centres were being closed down across the country and across the state. There's a lot of them. You've got Stockton, you've got a lot of large resis which are being closed. And so they, approached us as an accommodation provider because they knew that we were local. Yeah. They approached, I think it was it wasn't Sunnyfield, it was, I forget the name of the provider, to do healthcare for that first 2 years, to make sure that everyone had access to their local doctors and primary and secondary healthcare. There was a bank, Blackheath Area Neighbourhood Centre, were brought in as the day program provider, and they still are the day program provider for a bunch of them. The ombudsman was brought in just to make sure that everything was done properly and to keep us all on the up and up. So we had an official community visitor join the project team. It was really quite magnificent. It was a wonderful thing to be involved in, and it was part of my kind of induction into Sylvanvale up here. It was my first year when I joined Sylvanvale where this happened, and so...
welcome to Sylvanvale.
I know. Welcome to the mountains. Welcome to Sylvanvale. Wow. Here you've got this big project. But it was really wonderful. As you can tell, I really look back on it as a magnificent experience. We gave a paper on it at the NDS, National Disability Services Conference back in 2013. It was wonderful.
So your head office is where?
It's down in southern Sydney in the Shire. So we're actually...
So how did that come to be, the mountains and Sutherland Shire?
Well, look, I think it would have been 60 years ago when we opened Rainbow Lodge. So Sylvanvale kind of was a bit of a tale of two cities, because we had our region down in the Sutherland Shire where Sylvanvale started 75 years ago this year. And then we had Rainbow Lodge open 15 years later up here. So that's where Sylvanvale used to kind of be two regions under the one umbrella. And then eventually we've grown, and we've kind of filled in the gaps. Although I still kind of like us up here in the mountains as a special region. And then we've got a lot of Sydney-based sites and services as well.
Okay. So where in Sydney?
So it's in Kirrawee is head office.
And then you have homes all throughout the metropolitan area.
We do. We've got about, I think, 40 or so group homes. We also have that accessible childcare centre down in next to head office called Macari Childcare Centre. We also provide a bunch of therapy services, so behavioural support clinicians and things like that in order to support our staff in how they support the people who live with us. And we also have day programs and support coordination and things like that. But up here in the mountains, we just have our group homes. We also so we've got therapists and business partners and people from the organisation come up here. I'm always keen to get them up on the mountain.
So important.
They come in and feel how cold this is.
Yes, I know. They all do. They all come up and they have triple the jumpers on, and us locals kind of go, "Oh, that's adorable. Look how cold they are."
Exactly.
Yeah, but those therapists are so important, aren't they?
Yeah,
like
they
behavioural specialists, occupational health and therapy.
Yeah.
All of that. There's so much around one person to give them holistic health and well-being.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
Absolutely. I mean, the Department of Health, which we can all access through Medicare, is pretty limited. If you want to see a psychologist, you can get a mental health care plan, and you might see one for, I think it's 6 or 10 or maybe 12 sessions or something. But if you've got a disability, you've got autism, you've got complex behaviours and complex communication needs and miscommunication incidents and things like that, you need something far beefier than what the Department of Health and Medicare can provide.
Offering,
Exactly. So in comes the NDIS, and they give the funding to Sylvanvale, who pay for a psychologist to develop the behaviour support strategies, to do the full assessment on someone, to understand what the functions of their behaviour are. If someone's starting to vocalise, maybe they're thirsty. Unlike us, they might not be able to say, "Excuse me, can I have a glass of water?" They might have to communicate it in another way, which we might need a psychologist to help us understand. And then, once we understand it, we can communicate better, and then hopefully we can support them better. But it all starts with their support needs being understood, and then the foundation to that is your behaviour support clinicians, your occupational therapists for things to do with physicality or sensory needs. You got your speech therapists for things to do with swallowing or communication. It's really complex. So that's what Sylvanvale really understand, is that a person, you're exactly right, Jenny, it has to be holistic. We have to have everyone working and complementing everyone else. If someone has mental health, then we have to understand how that presents itself and to interpret that day to day. It's wonderfully complicated, and yet
So complicated. Because what if residents don't get on?
Look, matching is really important.
That would be hard.
It is hard, and look, it's placing people when we have a vacancy, and right now we do have a couple of vacancies in our homes in the Blue Mountains where a bedroom and a bed isn't occupied by someone. If we're approached by someone that wants to move in or needs to, or they're stuck in hospital or something like that, then we do what's called a matching process. We bring in our psychologists in our department, as well as myself and anyone else that has a bit of expertise in the area, and we consider, okay, the people who live there currently and this potential new person, will they get on? Is something one of them is going to do, is that going to trigger the other person? Does someone get distressed when there's noise made, and yet the other person makes a lot of noise? So we do need to think of matching, and that's a real robust process which we really try to get right every time, because it's not just for the sake of good placement. I try to respect that the people who live there, they're going to see this person every day, every night, every morning.
That's right.
It's really their home and their life. So we really have to get it right. We really work hard to get it right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so staff then would be, I guess, 24/7 and...
Yeah, absolutely. Our homes are staffed 24/7. A couple of them have staff members that sleep on site, so they're woken up by the people if they're needed. But then the majority, there's a staff awake all night, so it really is 24/7, 365, quite literally.
How's that the clock?
Yeah, that's right. And look, staffing it are essentially the hands and the eyes and ears and the voice of all the great plans and everything we do. So you can get a psychologist in to draw up a wonderful behaviour support plan. You can get an OT in to draw up a wonderful manual handling plan, or a speech therapist to draw a wonderful mealtime plan to help them swallow and eat successfully. But it's all just paper and it's all just plans, and the people that are actually going to do it are the staff members, those frontline staff members that are the most valuable people in the whole organisation, because they're the ones that have to do every minute and every hour and every day, and they're the ones that have to get it right. So I take a really supportive and empowering approach to the staff members. I really try to bring out the best in each of them and find what motivates them. But then in turn, I also take a very prescriptive approach, that they really need to follow what's in those plans. If a speechie has said that someone's meals need to be cut up in small cubes every mealtime, otherwise there's a risk of choking, then damn it, the staff members have to do it absolutely every meal. Yeah, it's so important for safety and for everything.
Yeah, we've had a few people. I work for Nepean Area Disability Organisation in day programs.
Yeah, NATO's wonderful.
At the Katoomba Centre. And we have a lot of older clients at the Katoomba. Younger clients go to our Lawson Centre.
Yeah.
But we've had quite a few people choke.
Yeah, it's very scary. Yeah.
And we have a copy of all their eating plans and everything. But, you know, sometimes the staff don't get it right. But then it's got to come through us as well. So we're always checking their lunch boxes and checking their plans.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
So scary. It's nothing worse than choking. It's so scary.
It is. Yeah. What's so scary about choking is it's often a silent hazard. So that's what scares me most about it. Same as swimming. I'm always scared of water with our guys because when something goes wrong, no noise is made. And that's the thing about choking. When something goes wrong, there's no siren going off. There's no one able to yell. They're actually choking. The NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission, which is essentially our police and watchdog in our industry, did a massive review a couple of years ago on preventable deaths. And that review identified that epilepsy was one of them and swallowing was another one of the primary causes of preventable deaths in this whole sector. So that's why Sylvanvale, we take it so seriously. Whenever I hear anything about swallowing, whenever there is a choking incident, we immediately bring the speechy back in as our standard response. And sometimes we've got a bit of a revolving door until we get it right. And then that speechy comes and they get it right and they tell our staff members how to get it right. Because, you know, I'm aware that speechies sometimes, you know, tell us to mince food up and ruin textures and I've worked with people with cerebral palsy that have told me that speechies ruin food because they had a wonderful plate of food or a piece of toast which they're now no longer to eat and enjoy the crunch and the texture because it has to be pureed. But I'd much rather someone get a healthy meal and to not choke and be well nourished than run the risk of something so scary as choking.
And you're right, silent, because when people are not silent, so when they're coughing and you can hear, then their body is coping with it and possibly bringing it up. But when it's silent, that's when they're choking.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. When it's at its worst stage, it's making no alert noise for you. That's what scares me about it. So I think nutrition and swallowing is a real key area for all of disability services, and I take that really seriously, as everyone does in our group homes. So luckily we have very few choking episodes, and when we do, we respond really, really quickly.
And really good. I can even back that.
Yeah.
Like even to the point they send a message on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I won't go too depth on air about that, but you know, they're really good at, you know, go and do what they got to do in that way, but also sending the family a message.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, because
Josh was saying he's got a family member
No, Josh is a brother of one of our guys. And look, as soon as anything happens, it's all systems go. You know, it's a lot of precautionary medical checks. So we might call an ambulance just as a safety check, and then the next day we make sure that we get a speechy in the door to do another swallowing review. It's really important. And when you think about it, it's also such a like food and nutrition, it's everyone. Like we all need it. We all do it several times a day. So it's one of the most common, stable, ordinary things. So if we don't get it right, and it's so near the air pipe, then I'm glad to hear that, Josh. Thanks for saying so.
No, not a problem.
So what are some of Sylvanvale's priorities for the future?
I was about to say that, Jen.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, we just want to navigate the NDIS as well as we can, I suppose.
yeah.
It is. It's tricky.
Huge, isn't it?
Look, the NDIS has certainly been in the media a lot lately, and I know there's some funding blowouts and it's been complicated. I think we're on the 10-year anniversary just this week of when it rolled out.
I remember when it rolled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julia Gillard.
Yeah, that's right. I remember back in the Every Australian Counts campaign, which was the push to get it up and running. But yeah, look, we're aware that our customers, our clients, the people who use our services find the NDIS very confusing because it's very complicated. It's still a pretty young, scheme. It's only 10 years old, so technically
it's
it isn't even a toddler. It isn't even a teenager yet. So we try to understand it as best we can, and then when it changes, which it keeps doing, understand those changes as best we can so we can help our people understand it and get the most out of it. Because if we don't understand it properly, then they won't understand it properly. And if they don't, then their needs might not get met. They might get...
How could they possibly?
Yeah, it's very hard.
To know exactly what's out there as well, you know? It's like you've got to tell your plan manager what you want and what you need. But if you don't know even what's out there, sometimes you don't even know what you need.
Yeah.
So...
And also there's a language too. Like there's like you and I who work in the industry, or the three of us here, we know that there's a little bit of language. And so getting to know the jargon, I guess, is very helpful because we can help the families and our customers, our people, understand it too.
Yeah,
so,
to get the most that they can out of that funding.
Yeah.
Which is usually a year, or is it reviewed every 6 months?
It's usually reviewed every 12 months, but sometimes they're stretching it out to 24 or even 36 months. Yeah. So if you don't get it right, and they shortchange you, then you might be stuck with that shortchange of support for years. Yeah. And you can ask for a review, say, please, can I have the extra 20 grand I need to buy a new bed and a wheelchair, or buy a behavioural support clinician to review something. But if they say, sorry, wait till your review date, you're stuffed. Absolutely. So, I guess our final priority, just to end on that point, is that, look, I really want to push that person-centred celebration of difference aspect to our services. There's a lot of health and safety stuff. We've spoken about supports, we've spoken about risk and choking and stuff. And what I never want to leave off is actually the goals and interests and meaningful engagement, however you want to describe it, of each person. So, there's one thing to have, your sheets washed and your meals made and and vehicles picking you up and dropping you off and staff there to do it all. But that's all just basic acts of daily living. What I want to do is start really celebrating each individual difference and encouraging people just to do whatever they want to do rather than what we think they should do. Do it with, not for. And it might be something as simple and ordinary as going to Wenty Lake and having a coffee and feeding the ducks, or it might be something like as a Harbour Bridge climb or going on a holiday or something. Whatever it is, I'd love to really start to build on the stuff we do there and make it as good and abundant and as positive as possible.
Yeah, like I can bounce it there again, guys. Like what Daniel's saying, he's right, because look, my brother went in. He was, you couldn't get him to do very much. You couldn't get him to go on a holiday, nothing. And look what you guys have done.
Yeah.
When we had those big fires, you just stayed at the
Fairmont.
And he was in that big bed. Like, we'd never seen him.
I remember that. Whoa.
That was wonderful. There's a good story.
You guys have done absolutely immense. So have you guys got any future plans?
Yeah, well, our future plans is to improve what we do today, I guess. So, look, we do have some growth plans. We'd like to identify if there are any other needs up here. Maybe there's extra day programs people need. Maybe there's, again, our plan is to be responsive to what the community and our people need. So my plan and Sylvanvale's plan is to get even better at doing what we're doing. So today, I want to be able to do what I do today even better tomorrow. So that's our future plan there. But then also I want tomorrow and in the future to be responsive to need, I guess. So if there are extra services which people with a disability need up here, which might be a bit unique to the mountains, then I'd love to respond to that. I'd love to be able to provide that. Even though the mountains is part of metropolitan Sydney, it's still pretty far from Sydney, and I live up here and I love it, but sometimes people in Sydney think of it as a regional town. Yeah. So what might be accessible in Sydney might not be accessible up here. So I'd love to build it and establish it up here. But yeah, Sylvanvale will continue to grow. It's been 75 years this year, and we've got big celebrations. Yeah, so we've been doing some fun celebrations, and yeah, I'm just hoping that we can continue for another 75 years and keep doing what we're doing. It's not really about us; it's about the people who use our services.
And what was this about Government House?
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Sandra was telling me she missed out.
Okay, bring this on. Juicy.
They were too late or something. She was very annoyed.
Yeah. Look, well, that's the thing. It's as I said, we turned 75 this year, which is really, really cool and really something to be celebrated. So one of the things we did was there was a special event at Government House hosted by the Honourable Margaret Beasley. And so we all went down there. I went down there and doled up, and it was a lot of fun. And we got hosted and had a bit of a special event down there as a celebration, because the Governor, Honourable Margaret Beasley, is a patron of Sylvanvale. So she's someone that is involved and works with Sylvanvale and has always sponsored us in that way.
So fantastic.
So yeah, it was a real honour to attend Government House, and we all attended from the chairman of the board right up to the people who use our services. There was a busload of people from the mountains that came down, myself and a manager and a couple of people with their staff members. And yeah, it was a real thrill. It was a lot of fun. I actually got... me and someone got talking to someone and in the corner, and we were chit-chatting, and then he showed us into this other special room we weren't going in. And then we were talking about where we live, and we asked him where he lives, and he pointed upwards, and he turned out to be the husband of the governor. Oh. So I had to be, all of a sudden I
live here.
I know.
Backflip went, whoops.
Oops. I immediately did an audit of everything I had just said in our conversations with him. And luckily, no offence, no inappropriate jokes were made. But no, that was lovely. That was a lot of fun that night. It was a real thrill and a real honour. You know, we've done a lot of 75th celebrations, birthday celebrations, and that was one of the highlights. That was really cool.
Yeah. Mocktails in the mountains?
Yeah, we did that too. I mean, part of our thing, like as you all know, if you live in the mountains, you love it and you're proud of it. And, you know, it's rarely someone that lives up here that isn't just thrilled and wants to show off how beautiful it is up here. So we thought as part of our 75th birthday, we'd do a bit of a mocktail tour for a couple of particularly good lookout sites, get some photos and send them around. So yeah, we did a Three Sisters, we did a Sublime Point, Govetts Leap, and essentially just got everyone together, you know, threw a few of us in a van, drew up some mocktails and some feather boas and went to these sites and had a bit of a cheers in front of the Three Sisters and then sent the photo around. So it's meant that we've been able to, you know, celebrate Sylvanvale's 75th birthday year Blue Mountain style. Yeah. So yeah, we love it up here and wouldn't leave for quits. So yeah, that was a fun time too.
Are you going to get involved with the Winter Magic Festival this year?
Not this year, but that was actually, look, I don't know if you want me to tell you another story about the Winter Magic.
Parade?
I was in the parade.
Guys, can we go to a song first and then come back? Sure. Just to break it up a bit.
All right.
Pushing people with a wheelchair up the
hill. It was magnificent. You wait. Story.
Here we go. Radio Blue Mountains, 89.1, Blast on the Past, Back to the Future.
Tonight I'm yours. We can make it happen, I'm so sure. And I won't let it go. There is something I think you should know. I won't be leaving your side. We're gonna dance through the night. I wanna reach for the stars. Bailamos, let the rhythm take you over. Bailamos, te quiero, amor mío. Bailamos, wanna live this night forever. Bailamos, te quiero, amor mío. Tonight we dance like no tomorrow. If you will stay with me, te quiero, mi amor. Quédate conmigo esta noche. Let the rhythm take you over. Bailamos, te quiero, amor mío. Bailamos, wanna live this night forever. Bailamos, te quiero, amor mío. Bailamos, te quiero. Let the rhythm take you over. Ay, cómo te quiero. Ay, cómo te quiero. Ay, cómo te quiero. Wanna live this night together. I could be like that. Just give me all the things that you want now. Tell me the best thing I can do. Say you got a lot of good reasons. I know I told a lot of good lies now. I could lose everything for you. So if you fall asleep and gotta wake up, say that it's us.
Radio Blue Mountains, 89.1 Blast from the Past, Back to the Future. And Jenny and I are here with Daniel from Sylvanvale. So, Daniel, you were saying you've got a story. We were talking about Winter Magic. So you said you have a story to do with Winter Magic?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Josh. Look, it's a bit of a personal story, but it's the story of how essentially I met the Blue Mountains. So it was 10 and a half years ago, I moved my whole family up here, so my wife and my 3 children. And it was all because I had a job up here with Sylvanvale, and I got introduced to the wonder of the Blue Mountains through the Winter Magic Festival and our participation in the parade. So back in the day when Winter Magic had a parade, and it was still happening pre-COVID, but even before then, we used to do this wonderful activity where all of our guys who lived in our homes in the Blue Mountains used to get together. We'd meet at the base of Katoomba Street or a little bit to the side, and we'd participate in the parade. So we marched under the banner, the magic of diversity, because we're not about people with disabilities or non-abilities. We just celebrate diversity. Everyone has different abilities and interests. So it was the Winter Magic of Diversity banner, and then you have a lot of people in wheelchairs and a lot of other people marching in that parade under that banner of celebration for Sylvanvale. But what makes it even more interesting is that how on earth do you push someone with a wheelchair up Katoomba Street? It is
very difficult.
Very difficult. It is so steep.
Especially if they can't help.
Yes, if they can't help, and it's not motorised, if they... So it's very, very tricky, plus it's freezing. So, every Winter Magic, it's absolutely freezing.
You'd have a few people who would take over
Absolutely.
on a rotating basis.
Yeah, because it's a really huge parade. So what we did is we didn't want that to limit our guys. This is an important opportunity to celebrate who they are and what they can do. So we engaged the local football team, which was a really interesting reach out sideways. I know, when you think about it, rugby union, scrums.
Might have been
That's it. And I think, Josh...
I think that's when I was asked at the RSL. I think that might have been the footy.
It would have been. So you have to. It sounds like you have to be careful, Josh. If you walked near us on that day with a wheelchair or wheeled near us, then you might get a football player behind you and start pushing. But
I'll have the scooter.
Yes. So what they would do is they would push all of our guys up, and it would be this just marvellous celebration. And to me, I've been in disability services since I was 15, so we're talking 3 decades now, and this was one of the most magnificent celebrations of diversity and community inclusion, because we're in a big community event. We've got local community groups like the football team that are supporting us. We've got all our staff. We got even members of the board of Sylvanvale came up too, and we were all there, and we were marching under the magic of diversity. And I thought, this is a beautiful place.
What fun!
Yeah, what fun! Katoomba and the Blue Mountains just charmed me then. And I was with my wife and 3 young kids in Parramatta at the time, and I said, you know what? I know you know how we said we wanted a backyard? Well, why don't we see if we can get a backyard up in the Blue Mountains? So we moved up here, and I've never looked back. I love it.
Got your own backyard.
Yeah, I'll live here my whole life. Which is great. And it all started from Sylvanvale's march under the magic of diversity and the Winter Magic Parade. And I was thrilled that Winter Magic is happening again this year.
It's in a way good. It's coming back.
Glad.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, the parade's back on.
And the parade's back on.
Yeah.
So, that's a really cool story.
So that's right. So for the guys that haven't heard about that, the parade starts at 11 a.m. on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Unfortunately, it really crept up on us. Because Winter Magic hasn't happened since COVID, so we've had 3 years of absence. Plus, the parade stopped a few years before that too, for some safety reasons. So to have them both come back, I'm hoping that we can do this again and get us marching under the banner of diversity and get some local footy kids to give us a push and rug up warm, and we all dress up, which is really fun, silly fun to get dressed up Winter Magic style.
And how good is that for the football players who are so fit and used to, being at the peak of physical fitness and everything, for them to be introduced to people who don't have that physical ability.
It's a really interesting...
So it's a really good thing for them to, you know, be there for people who are living with disabilities.
Absolutely.
And to experience connecting with somebody. Because a lot of people, unless they have a family member, they really don't connect and haven't connected with people. And they don't realise how much people living with a disability have to offer to the community.
Absolutely.
And,
that's a really interesting way to see it, Jenny. The fact that I love the difference. That's what the thing I love about disability is just the difference that people are. So, you know, people are different from people, and people with a disability are even more different. So I think they're even more interesting. Yes. And it's a great way to think about it, Jenny, that you've got someone who's a young footy player at the peak of physical health is so much more different than one of our beloved guys in a wheelchair that can't walk and can't push themselves up that hill. But it is inclusion. I think, you know, the community still has a long way to go when it comes to community inclusion of people with a disability. There is still a bit of a otherness about it. And so I think events like this, where you get all those footy players had a great experience, you get the community watching the parade and seeing our guys
go up beside them or behind
go up.
them.
Yeah. And look, and we're all dressed up. So, you know, maybe you can tell who's who in the zoo, but you can't tell who's got a disability or who doesn't. Maybe if they're in a wheelchair you could work it out, but it is so much more inclusive, and it promotes inclusion in a really good way, which I really like.
And of course you're listening to Radio Blue Mountains 89.1.
Yes.
And we've got to congratulate the radio station too. It's a community radio station. And we've had our show, The Ability Show, for years.
Yes.
Well, I've been with NATO for about 10 years.
That's wonderful.
More than 10 years. And, we've been doing this show, and the radio station has backed it. And we'll get people on, like Charles, who can talk, but they can't talk, and nobody says, oh, that's not good radio. Yeah. Because it's still, the communication still comes through. And, of course, I'll paraphrase what he's saying.
Wonderful.
But the radio station's so welcoming.
They are.
To people with disabilities as well.
Yeah, if it wasn't for NATO, I'd have this show.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you, Radio Blue
Josh
Mountains.
does a great job. RBM, good on you. Anyway, recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, as everyone knows, recruitment, the disability sector, the aged care sector, the childcare sector, all of the care sectors are really struggling with recruitment right now. And in the mountains, disability support workers are particularly hard to find. I find it twice as hard to recruit up here as I do in my Western Sydney services. And that is because work is saturated up here. There's a lot of work available, there's a lot of services available, and not enough staff to staff them. So I'm always really keen to meet interesting people that have experience supporting someone with a disability, but I'm also interested in meeting people who might be interested in a career change themselves. So I've met a couple of people from the aged care industry that have been in that industry for a long time and are looking for a change. And we've got some really interesting things we can offer. One of the things about aged care is they're a bit understaffed themselves. So if you're just a frontline aged care worker, then sometimes your shift is always on your feet and you've got 40 people on your ward and you do meds and meals and showers and then boom, 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 that's your shift. And look, that's essential and that's important, but it's also exhausting. Yeah. And also it's a little bit menial too, perhaps, because you don't get to do some of the funky stuff where you get to know someone, you get to take them out to Wenty Lake, you get to take them to see their parents once a month. So that's what we can offer. We've got much better support ratios. We pay a little bit better too. And also if you work as a disability support worker in our homes, then you can do a much greater variety of supports to people, right down to you know them well enough to know how they have their toast in the morning, which I think is actually a real privilege to know someone that well. You can, take them to see their family. You can take them to the doctor. You can participate in an activity of playing cards or music or gardening or something locally. So you've just got a little bit more scope to have a little bit more of a rewarding work experience if you're a staff member with us. And last year we recruited several people from the aged care industry, and they sing our praise so much, which we're not doing anything different, but for them it's a real blessed change which they really appreciate. So it's look, I don't want to press the point too much, but absolutely, look, we're always looking for staff, whether it's casual, permanent, part-time or full-time. If you're interested in a meaningful job or a rewarding job where you're working with people and for people, then please look up Sylvanvale, because I'm always interested in meeting people who want to meet other people and give something back.
What about people who've retired, but are still looking for part-time work or just to do some shifts as well?
Absolutely.
Because, a lot of people who are more aged sort of say, it's so difficult to find work and
it is.
I can't find meaningful work.
Yeah, I've heard.
The disability sector, because you bring so much wisdom to it, and they've usually raised a family.
Absolutely.
And, raised children, raised grandchildren.
Yeah, they might have huge transferable skills, and they could become a real asset. And look, we don't have any age barriers. We're open to anyone from 1 to 100 or what have you who's interested to work. Everyone's recruited on their merits, and if someone has retired and they want to give something back, which is actually quite common, we actually get a lot of staff members that, they might be in a whole nother industry, but they've just had enough. Maybe they might be in banking or something, and they've just had enough of it, and they want to change. They've got a brother with a disability, so they know a bit about it. They've committed maybe to a bit of training, so they might be doing their Cert 4 in disability work or something like that, even a Cert 3, and they put their hand up for a disability support worker position. And look, we know what our customers need. So sometimes we can really find a gem out there of someone that might not come with 10 years disability work experience, but they might just come with a bit of commitment, a bit of training and the right attitude.
Yes.
And then we can provide quite a lot of training. That's another thing. I was
just going to ask you about that.
Yeah? Yeah. So look, training is essential. I mean, we need to make sure that not just for that staff members are confident that they know what to do, but that the customers and our clients and our people are supported properly. And in order to know how to be supported properly, our staff members need to be trained. So we've got quite a lot of standardised kind of training or standard training. So we've got things like behaviour support or manual handling or things like that. But then if you work in one of our homes that has a specialty, like our ageing in place home or our mental health primary home, then we provide specialised training for that home. So for example, in our ageing in place home, we engage with Dementia Australia, and they provide dementia and disability training and dementia delirium training for all those staff members there. So you got a disability and then you've got dementia, then our staff members are specially trained to support you. And so all those staff members that join, if they can then be confident that they've got that training as well. Look, it's really important. It's not funded that well by the NDIS, which is a bit of a gap, but Sylvanvale still commits to making sure that, look, if you want to come from aged care yet you don't have challenging behaviour training, behaviours of concern training, positive behaviour support training, or whatever you want to call it, if you don't have that and that makes you nervous, then you're still welcome to apply and we can have the conversation, because you know what, we might be able to provide the training for you, train you up, skill you up, and then you might end up being a real meaningful and important part of the life of someone with a disability for as long as you want to work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So how can people contact you? And of course, you've got vacancies in some of the houses as well.
Yeah, we
so
do.
That for
I guess we've got vacancies in two senses of the word. We've got vacancies in our accommodation, so there's a couple of vacant beds and bedrooms. So if you know someone with a disability that's that needs to move into a group home, then they can reach out to us via our website, and eventually that filters up through to me, and then I reach out to them and we talk. And then we've got vacancy in the sense of staffing. So we've got vacant positions in our workforce up here, both permanent vacancies as well as casual team vacancies. And again, we've got our website, Sylvanvale with a V. And if you look up Sylvanvale careers, then you can have a look for the word Blue Mountains in the list of job ads, and then you'll find a way to apply for us. And then again, it'll come through to me, and then I'd love to have a conversation with you guys, who's ever interested. Because, sometimes casual work works for people, sometimes permanent work works for people. But we are quite keen because our guys need staff to look after them. And if I can't find the staff, then the guys don't get the support. So I work really hard at making sure that we recruit the right people and enough people. Yeah, so always keen.
Yes, it's difficult.
It is difficult.
Yeah, because it's 24/7.
It is.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I believe it's difficult, not just because of the saturation of the market up here, but also when you think about it, the NDIS tripled the services. So, the NDIS 10 years ago took a $7 billion industry in Australia and then upped it to $22 billion. And I think this year now it's clocking $34 billion.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking 5 times the size now. And when you think about it, that means 5 times the staff members, 5 times the support, 5 times the therapist, 5 times the group home.
Yeah.
So if you've got a workforce up here of 20 people 10 years ago, then 5 times 20 is 100. You've got a 500% increase in your workforce need. So it means that if you're recruiting up here, you need 5 times as many people.
A lot of one-on-one now, which wasn't so much back then before the NDIS. It was more like group funding, block funding. Which is great. Like the one-on-one is great.
Place,
It has its place. But yes, that's increased the staff.
Well, I see it as unmet need. So there were a lot of block funded 1 to 3. Great. Everyone rocks in, or a house has a 1 to 3, but heaven forbid if one of those members of that home actually needs one-on-one support for showers or for behaviour support or for transport or for meals or whatever, they actually need the attention of one staff member. But the block-funded model instead had to spread that one staff member thin across
Through everyone. Yeah.
And so to me, I saw that as unmet need, and it's meant that, yes, now there's a one-on-one allocation and there's extra funding and extra staff, but at least the need's being met, and it's up to us, Sylvanvale, to make sure that we can provide the staff to meet that unmet need. So that's where I do think the NDIS, for all its current challenges, I think it really has risen to the point of meeting that unmet need for a lot of people. I know there's still a lot of areas for improvement in the scheme, but one thing which I am really heartened, because I believed in the NDIS over 10 years ago when it was a dream and it was Every Australia Counts campaign, and no one thought it'd get up as an insurance scheme, and it was all Medicare tax and all of this stuff. And it is nice to see that Sylvanvale is responding to, meeting that unmet need through the NDIS, because the NDIS will fund it if you can evidence the need, and then we'll provide that support. But it's been a turbulent 10 years, and with the NDIS, and it might be another turbulent 10 years, I guess.
At least it's fluid. Let's hope. Yeah. So that the government listens to us, the providers. And, we can say, well, this is what we need, this is what we're lacking.
Or
and can this be Yeah, and of course, yes, the clients too can
Absolutely.
say, gee, had lots of funding last year, but then my funding, was like half this year.
Well, that's the thing. You've
So-
got to balance the meeting the unmet need and the growth of the scheme with, to use the term the politicians are using quite a lot nowadays, is the sustainability of the scheme. So is it financially sustainable? 22 billion to 34 billion in its first 10 years. And what is heartening is that Bill Shorten, the Minister for Disability, in the recent federal budget did confirm that its funding will continue. So we were all nervous that he was going to announce cut, but he did confirm that the funding will remain as it is. But I am mindful that Albanese government has understood the sustainability challenge and are trying to, they've given us, I guess, a bit of notice that they're going to try and cap growth of the scheme at 8% each year. So it just means that as more young kids with autism come into the scheme at a young age, or accommodation services boom and more group homes are opening up, that growth is kind of capped, because I think the projections were huge, and it was gonna really blow the budgets of the country, I guess. But anyway, I'm not a politician. That's not my challenge.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I am really glad that there is a lot of information going into it. So, Josh, as you're saying, to hear from the actual clients and the people who are receiving the services themselves, there's been a big NDIS review, and there's a report coming out for that in a couple of months. And then we've got the Royal Commission coming out, the final report in October, I believe. So there's going to be a lot of ways that the government as well as ourselves can really hear the voice of the people who receive the services, because those are the people that are experts in the service and know what works and what doesn't work. So if you don't listen to the experts, then you're not going to succeed in making anything better.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Do you remember the shutout report? Did you
Yeah.
ever read that?
Yeah, tell me about that.
Oh, well, that had an impact on me. And that was people's stories. And that went really into looking at and gathering people with a disability and being open to what their story was. And I remember I was studying community services at TAFE, and I think that was the moment that I thought, disabilities, because we were learning all about all sorts of different areas of community services. And that shutout report had an impact on me.
Wow.
It's probably still online and everything. It was a very interesting read.
That sounds great. So that's when you got the spark. Yeah, look, I think people that work for disability there's always a moment where they got the spark. Mine was year 10 work experience. I was 15 years old, and it was a night before work experience was going to start. And I didn't have anything lined up, and I went to my stepfather and I said, oh my God, I need somewhere to do work experience. And he was the manager of what was called a sheltered workshop, which is now it's called an Australian Disability Enterprise, a workplace for people with a disability. So I rocked up with him in his car on Monday morning, and there was this wonderful room of people with very high autism, so non-verbal, high behavioural autism, doing electronic circuit board assembly. It was amazing. It blew my mind. And I thought, how can they do this? I can't do this, and they've got a disability. But those mind mapping skills, as someone with autism, it's perfect. It is. Isn't it, Josh?
Perfect focus.
And so their focus and their attention to detail. So I watched them do this. I was only there a week, and I watched them do this, and I thought, this is an incredible place that I've walked into. So after that week, I got a casual job with them, and then ended up working with them for 9 years, and then went into day programs for 10 years, and then went into accommodation for 10 years. And here I am at Blue Mountains Radio. I love it, And I'll stay in this industry for the rest of my life, because like you, Jenny, I caught that spark back in the day.
It really is a very fulfilling job.
It is. It's wonderful.
Working with people and hopefully making a difference, no matter how small, even if it's just to put a smile on their face.
Yeah, absolutely.
During the day, you just keep trying, and you get to know them so well as well, and they're such characters. It's
I always think it's such a privilege to get to know people. I think understanding how a person works is a real privilege. If you and I were to understand each other and tell something personal, it'd be vulnerability, it'd be honesty. And yet people with a disability, because we need to go into their homes and provide them with every single little piece of personal support they might need, I want to treat that with respect. That's a vulnerability. That's something which I want to respect enough and feel like it's a privilege of me to see you with a pillow crease on your cheek in the morning, because that's a real moment which is a privilege to see. So it's just an extension of respect, which I think it's a privilege to work in this industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So to hop on the Sylvanvale website, that's the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, Sylvanvale, it's Sylvanvale with a V, 2 Vs. Sometimes people add a D in there, here and there. So it's the Sylvanvale website, which is sylvanvale.com, I believe. But you can just Google search Sylvanvale Careers or Sylvanvale Disability or something. So
It'll come up.
You'll find it. And so, look, on that website, we've got a list of all of our vacant homes, and we've even got 3D tours. So if you're savvy with a computer, you can walk around the home in a three-dimensional...
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's cool.
I wasn't told that when I had a look. Instead of going on that look, I would have looked myself on the computer.
That's it. Go and snoop around online.
That may not have been available with your place.
So, there's a lot of those vacancies listed for accommodation. And then if you're looking for a job, look, I'd love for you to reach out. There's you can look at the careers page, so Sylvanvale Careers. There's a good list of jobs which are available. And there's usually a Blue Mountains one there. So you can always contact reception too at Sylvanvale, and they can take down your details. They can even forward your details to me, because I'm always happy and keen to reach out to anyone locally. I think it helps being a local, talking to locals. There's something about the Blue Mountains which we all are quite, as I said, proud of where we live, but also you kind of know how far away things are. If someone lives in Blaxland compared to Wentworth Falls, there is a bit of a difference. So
I know, people don't realise how far it actually is.
So if someone's looking for Blue Mountains work and you live in Blaxland, then you probably better go into one of our Western Sydney sites. Whereas if you live in Wenty, then you're probably better applying for our Katoomba sites. So go onto the website, click around, and look, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on
I don't
before
believe
we say our goodbyes?
Yeah, sure. Look, I don't believe so. I think I've probably spoken enough.
There is that 1300 number as well, because a lot of people are more comfortable with just picking up the phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's...
So the contact details for Sylvanvale, I've got them here. So it's sylvanvale.com.au, and that's Sylvanvale with 2 Vs, and the Sil is with a Y. But anyway, if you Google that, you'll find it. But then if you're more comfortable with the phone, just give our main number a call. It's 1300 244 577. So take a look at that, and please feel free to give us a call. And look, I guess a shout out to Sylvanvale out there, if anyone's listening from Sylvanvale. Hi, Sylvanvale. Happy 75th birthday.
Yes,
because it's
75 years.
75 years, and you're looking good for it. So it's certainly a milestone, and to have been around and to still be thriving and still doing what we do, but hopefully better each day. It's a real honour to work for this organisation and to be given the opportunity to do what I do. So, happy birthday, Sylvanvale.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, yes. Wow, all righty.
I think that's everything.
All right.
Well, that is everything covered, guys. The interview was gone a lot longer than planned, but that's okay. It is 3:35.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Josh and
Not a
and I
Jenny.
problem,
think
thank
because
you.
we're all so into it, it's a
Yeah.
big part of our lives, like
Yeah,
the three of
definitely.
us.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
You just can't stop talking
No,
about
I can
it.
That's
tell
right.
we're all pretty
Yeah.
passionate about it. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Exactly. Alrighty, Jen. So you got one lined up.
Yeah, just take on me.
Take on me. You're listening to Radio Blue Mountains 89.1. Lost on the Past, Back to the Future. Thank you again, Daniel.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye.